It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Yeah. Just said we weren't going to do that.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, from your friends at Bigfoot Collectors Club.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillian. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
and your trusty producer,
Riley Bray.
What's up, boys?
What's up, man?
Hey, happy Thanksgiving. What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving?
Just going to some friend's house and making some food and doing turkey and fucking same thing everybody always does.
Well, I didn't know if you're like going out of town or something.
Oh, no.
I'm in Albuquerque.
Oh, you
yeah,
are.
you'll be playing,
As this episode airs, you are
Yeah.
currently in Albuquerque
I am.
playing with Spindrift.
Will you
Yeah,
order
well, I
like
think we have a day off, but we're just there.
Oh.
Yeah, but we'll be on an Indian reservation, so that makes a perfect place to
cool.
spend
To
Colonial
feel-
Imperialism
yeah,
Day.
Exactly.
There you go.
Oh, well.
Will you look for like an open-faced turkey sandwich at a restaurant or something? Or
I mean, I don't eat the animals.
oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. God, what are we talking about?
I'm the worst person at Thanksgiving. I'm like the one that my relatives are like, oh god,
What
Right,
do you
what are we gonna do with
eat?
liberal vegetarian.
Yeah,
come
yeah,
make us
exactly.
I'm
feel
with you.
bad.
Yeah.
All right, hold
We'll
on,
celebrate
everybody.
together.
Before we keep going on this food talk on our
Sorry.
new podcast called
Food talk.
T Gives,
Paranormal food talk.
I want to bring in our
Spooky
guest.
sandwiches.
He's an actor and a entrepreneur. I mean, he can choose to talk about that whether he wants to or not. That's his entrepreneurial business, not yours. He works. He stars as Hector on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He's one of my pals. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Erick Lopez.
Yay.
Yo.
What's up?
You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
But before we get to that, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I'm going to a friend's house. Yeah. Laying it all down.
I like
Laying
that.
it
You know what?
This episode is just like, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? This is our new segment. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I think we're going to the same place, Michael.
Oh shit! I think we're spending Thanksgiving together.
Be good.
That's nice.
Oh, nice.
nice.
Do
Happy
you make a dish?
Thanksgiving.
Do you bring a dish?
Yeah. Well, I asked if I needed to bring a dish, and they're like, "No, don't worry about it." And then I asked again. I was like, "No. I need to bring something. Why aren't you guys asking for dish help?"
Right.
And they're like, well, usually what happens is, we ask for dish help and like, hey, can you bring this appetizer or that? And then people are like, I'm just gonna bring my own thing.
I'm just going to bring my own
Yeah, and then
thing.
you end up having like 20 desserts, and then
Right.
that's what he's
I
trying to
know
avoid.
a lot of pies.
Or they clog up the oven, right? Mine's an oven dish, so it needs to go into the oven.
Yeah.
There's like a competition, like,
Yeah.
oh, no one's eaten mine yet. You know?
Right.
I'll just show up and eat, and then I'll bounce.
That's
Literally
how-
Bounce.
Right.
Boing boing.
Totally.
Good night.
Totally.
Last year I spent it with the Gardeners up in Oxnard, Silver String Beach. That was gorgeous Thanksgiving. It was really nice. So we should have a good time this year. I'm glad to learn that we're spending Thanksgiving together.
Look at that.
Aw.
Friends in real life.
We're family now.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Family. Erick, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Now for our next segment. What are you doing for Christmas? Erick, I gotta ask you.
Yep.
What is your personal paranormal history?
Ooh. No. Getting to the meat of it right
yeah,
away.
let's
Right in
jump in.
All right.
We were in that white meat. Let's get in that sticky
Yeah.
dark meat.
I mean, my curiosity runs pretty deep since I was like a little kid.
Okay.
And yeah, just like, whenever I was little, I would peruse the library because the teachers would be like, you have to go to the library, you have to check out a book. And it's like, everyone's checking out different books. And I'm like, where's the space section? That's pretty interesting. I don't know anything about that.
yes.
And then as I was learning more about it, I'm like, oh, there's Bigfoot stuff, there's alien stuff, there's Loch Ness Monster stuff. And I was like, what are these things that no one talks about, you know?
Yeah.
No one's teaching me this in school.
Exactly, yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly how I got
Way
started.
more interesting than the crap we have to listen to about Ben fucking Franklin.
Yeah. Hey, he's a pretty interesting guy.
It's pretty cool. I'm sorry.
Our next segment.
Yeah,
Picking on Ben Franklin. Wow.
you just lost a
Kicking
whole
Ben
crowd.
Franklin.
Yeah.
You just lost your Ben Franklin supporters. That's
Totally. Dude, come on, man.
yeah.
Our next episode, my new podcast, Fuck Ben Franklin.
Anyway.
Anyways, yeah, but yeah, so it's like did that whole thing,
Yeah,
and then
so did you just discover that stuff on your own going into the school library, or did you have like a weird librarian point the way?
no, yeah, I wish.
We have to
Spooky librarian.
over here,
Ye who seek the truth.
holding a lamp.
That'd be a great movie right there.
I want to just shout out thanks to all the weird librarians out there who get kids into weird shit.
Yep.
Totally.
Library.
That's very much how I got
Yeah.
started, man. Right into the old school library, checking out cool like ghost books and alien books and all that stuff.
That stuff, I was fascinated, but I was scared. Were you scared of that stuff?
No, it felt right.
Have you ever been scared? You seem like a pretty calm, cool, collected guy.
Oh, really? That's the aura I give off.
Yeah.
Calm, cool, collected.
It's interesting. I have been scared in the past.
This is like you say that in the way that like the like father who admits that he cried once.
There was that one time, and now
I did cry once. But wait, well, so what? Okay, so you're getting into these books,
right,
and they don't scare you,
right?
They capture your imagination. Then what?
And I just wanted to see that in real life. I wanted to see Sasquatch in real life. I wanted to see UFOs in real life. And then as I grew older, nothing was happening. And then
You have to make an effort.
you have to make an effort, right? Well, no, because it's one of those things where it's like you either go to Ireland and try to look for Loch Ness Monster with your scuba gear, or
Right.
you just
Scotland.
sit at home and or Scotland,
Yeah.
Scotland, and then or you just sit at home and
It's a big undertaking.
You're like,
it really is.
I gotta get on a plane to see this fucking thing.
Right.
I'll just wait here.
Yeah, the first time I saw something was in high school. Actually,
Whoa,
it was by
really?
accident.
Now,
yeah.
where did you grow up again?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas,
yeah.
Texas. Right. And what were you in Dallas when you saw this?
I was in the backyard of.
Ooh, all right, let's hear it.
Oh, now it's story time. Yeah, gather round. This is a part where everyone settles into their seat and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Stop what you're doing.
I mean,
Lay down
it's
in the
nothing
ball.
too crazy, but I was in the backyard. I was talking on the phone, with the girl, and like you do when you're in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And just sometimes you want privacy, so it's like I felt like my parents were always listening to me while I was in my bedroom. So I was like, I'm just gonna go outside.
As they do. Parents,
As
by
they
the
do.
way, parents are spies. Everyone knows this.
What they do.
Professional spies.
Yeah.
So I went to the backyard, and it was like nighttime, and I'm like just looking up mindlessly at the sky, and then I'm like talking on the phone, and all of a sudden I see
Is it going?
What? Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just freaked
Freaking me
everybody
out,
out.
man.
Sorry. Just repeat that again. I thought it stopped. I freaked out.
Just makes the face of panic at me and pointed behind me. I'm like, am I about to be
so
murdered?
it was like the monkey from Family Guy that just points at the
Oh, my God.
I thought that it stopped recording. I was really scared.
I thought you saw a dog man ghost or
Now,
something.
now you know. I scare very easily.
That's in rare form today.
Let's
You
hope.
were saying.
Yeah.
So
I
you
was
were
saying.
telling a great story.
Right. So yeah, I was in the backyard, talking on the phone with a gal, and she was telling me some story, and I was like, just mindlessly looking up at the sky, and I saw a couple satellites go through because they look like stars, but they just kind of go in one direction, right?
Sure, yeah.
And then there was this one little star that I'm like, oh, that's a satellite, and it just moves and it stops, just completely just stops moving, and then I was like, oh, did that satellite just stop moving? And then it starts going the opposite direction.
Whoa.
And then it starts going the opposite direction again, and then it just zooms off. And I was just like, and I literally like verbally said, what the, I don't know
You
if
can
I
say it.
Say it. Yeah.
What the
F-
dealio?
What the dealio,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Dealio.
No, you can say what the fuck.
What the fuff?
Oh,
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
what the fuff. So that was it?
No. So then the girl was like, "What was going on?" And I was like, "Oh, I just saw something, in the sky." Now, keep in mind, like, no one believes you whenever you say things like this. Like, everyone's just like,
I do.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
We're in a safe space right
You're
here.
very safe here. Just look into that man's eyes
saw a
and
spaceship.
tell him your story.
Yeah, you saw a spaceship.
Tell me what you saw.
I think that'd be such a good service, Bryce. You should start a business called I Believe You.
I believe you.
And you just have
Pass out cards.
Yeah, it was a mermaid. I believe you. I totally believe you.
But yeah, so it was like that moment where I realized that it was just, there was something else out there. And then the second time I saw something wasn't until I came out to LA, and it was actually like 2 months ago or something. There was a really beautiful sunset, and you're like, oh, that's a beautiful sunset. And then as I'm like looking at the sunset, I see like a really bright like orb in the sky.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, is that like a plane? And then it's like, but it was like a perfect circle. And then all of a sudden it just like, like it just like looks like it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it just goes away.
Uh-huh.
But it was like really, really bright. Like you're just like,
Whoa.
and it was like, and then it was one of those moments where you're like looking around and it's like everyone's stuck in traffic. No one's looking, like, it's a very specific spot in the sky.
Were you in your car when
I was
you
in my
saw
car,
it?
yeah.
Whoa. What color was the orb?
It was just bright white.
Wow.
That's wild.
How close to the horizon was it? Like to the sunset?
Well, I mean,
was the sun low on the horizon, I guess?
no, it was about halfway down.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't really close to the horizon. It was about halfway down. The sky was kind of like pink and stuff, and it was all beautiful. And then it was about, even with the sun.
Whoa.
You have seen some shit, my friend.
Dude, that's awesome. We rarely get people who have actually seen strange lights and strange stuff in the sky.
really?
We've had a couple good ones, but like it's always, most people have a ghost story, which is like the thing that we've learned this past year is like everyone's kind of got a ghost story or a
Thank you for being
ghost
different.
adjacent story.
Yes.
But
Ghost
it's
adjacent.
really exciting when we get someone who's like seen stuff flying around in the sky.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I'm sure you didn't report them either, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, because I think there's only like 5% of people actually report seeing that stuff. Some like ridiculously low number.
Well, what are they gonna do? Like no one does anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they might send out yeah, you're probably right.
There was actually an interesting thing is like there was actually about, I think, a year ago, pretty recent. There was an orb over Van Nuys, and I'm over by Sherman Oaks, Van Nuys area, and this guy just in his backyard like is filming it with his phone. He put it on YouTube, and it was just this orb just like floating there.
Yeah.
And then and he's like, and he had to zoom in like quite a bit, but once he zoomed in, you're like, oh, that's definitely like some kind of like metallic ball
Whoa.
in the sky. And it was kind of like freaky because you're just like, this can't be real. And then the thing that made it even more freaky was then you start seeing a sheriff helicopter circle it.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
And then later on, what they said was they were like, oh, it was a weather balloon that like, or not weather balloon. It was like one of those balloons that they have at the car dealerships that floated away. And then it's like, it doesn't make any sense because if you see the video, it's like the propellers are really close to the orb. So it's like, it would have changed. Yeah.
It would have blown it away.
And it was just still.
Do you remember where that video is?
Oh, you just probably just type in like Los Angeles, like Van Nuys, like, UFO
right.
or
we'll
orb.
get that and we'll put it up.
Well, next time you see something, you got to call our number. We have a.
Oh, you have a hotline?
Oh, yeah,
we have a hotline.
We do have a hotline.
I believe
and
you.
no one's using it yet.
1-800,
And we are setting that up,
So
and
that would be
we're
the
setting
perfect
ourselves up for
opportunity for you to-
disappointment.
Yeah,
Call us.
It's 310-597-4803.
We want to hear about your sighting.
Tell us all about it, Bryce. We'll believe you.
We won't do anything about
Yeah, we
it.
can't
not
do
gonna
jack
do anything.
shit, but Bryce will believe
but
you.
I'll believe you.
So what do you think this stuff is? Like, do you think it's what's your best guess?
No, you don't want to.
Oh, yes, we
yes,
do.
we do.
Especially when it starts like that.
Yeah. Well, I've dove deep.
All right, great.
I'm a huge believer in cross-referencing stuff. So it's like I'm all about, and just in regular life, I overthink everything. So I'm like, measure 3 times and cut once. So each time I hear something, I'm like, all right, how can I fact check this with this, like completely different sources. And yeah, I don't know. It's I think we talked about this, Michael, too. It's like I think it's closely related to a lot of stuff that's in the Bible.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
I like that.
I don't think we talked about this that much. So wait, let's get into this. So do you think it's Do you think that it's stuff? Okay, do you think these types of phenomenon were recorded in the Bible in a biblical fashion?
Yep.
Or do you think that what we're seeing is something that is itself biblical? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess it's both. I guess
Okay.
they were recorded, and what we're seeing is a lot of stuff that a lot of our ancestors saw as well. We still just don't know how to explain it.
Right.
But one of the interesting things is when you're looking at this, like I recently started like really diving into actually reading like the Bible. So then like when you go from being hardcore into UFOs and hardcore into supernatural stuff, and you start reading some of this stuff, you're like, this is making a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially like certain things about like mountain energy. You've heard the whole like pyramid stuff and all the things. So before Jesus walked on water, he actually told everyone to go, oh yeah, go on the boat, go ahead, I'll catch up to you guys. He went up to the mountain and he like apparently to pray or something. So why did he go up to that mountain? What was he praying for?
Right.
And then all of a sudden he just appears and starts walking on water. So it's like a lot of these like similar energy things. Like Moses, same thing. It's like come up to the mountain. So that he felt called up to the mountain. And it's like there's a lot of similarities when you start looking at these things.
Are you now? Did you grow up religious? Are you religious?
I am religious. I grew up like going to the Catholic Church, but like I didn't really care. I was just like, we have to go to church again.
Right.
And it wasn't until like recently, I like my wife and everything. She was like, we should start going to find a church in LA.
Got it.
So. Yeah.
Wait, so do you think Jesus is alien at all? Is that
it sounds crazy, right?
No,
when you say it,
not at
but
all.
like
it sounds actually quite sane to me.
There's like you think about what happened, like the Star of Bethlehem. The three kings like followed that. It's like that very much could have been a UFO that like led them, like a star like in the sky, like led them to
it's
where he
moving
was.
them much in the same fashion in the way that like that
The thing
thing
that you
you
saw.
witnessed would move.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, all the religions of the world, when you start kind of breaking them down, they become very supernatural in their essence. I mean, there's like, in the Vedas, there's like,
oh yeah,
intergalactic, battles going on in the sky. And, even the book, of Mormon, some light being shows up and says there's some golden tablets he needs to go search out. It's all very supernatural at heart, it's in... Yeah, you're right. There's definitely something to that. Now, do you go as far as to go to like, these things that I see in the sky, or they kind of biblical in essence? Do you ever go down that like rabbit hole that like aliens are actually spirits or demons type thing?
Oh yeah, you have to have both.
Yeah,
there's not one without the other. And I think even like when you start looking at alien races, a lot of times are like there's the good aliens and then the bad aliens.
Yeah,
and I think it's very similar to the good spirits and bad spirits and all that stuff.
Right.
Very
so
interesting.
do you think that then? So do you think it's just us interpreting aliens as angels and demons, or do you think they're one and the same?
One and the same.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
If you really go deep, and
Yeah. Let's go deep.
Valiant Thor.
Valiant Thor.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk about today. Actually,
we will. Absolutely.
We'll get into that. So, I don't know. Should we? Let's set that aside for a moment.
Yes.
and then we'll get more into it.
Great.
Yeah, I just wonder. Like, it is interesting the one and the same stuff about this. I guess when what intrigues me about this idea is like, so do then the aliens come from another planet, or are they coming from like a realm that is like heaven or a realm that is hell?
It would have to be they come from some place. It's not like some like random place, but they all come from like either a planet. And a lot of times people talk about like the hollow earth theory, how like all these planets actually have an inside, and that's where everyone's living. So whenever you look at a planet from afar, like Neptune and Pluto and you're like all these different places, like you're looking at the surface area, and it's like that's not habitable, but you don't know what's inside of that.
Oh, so you think that some of these may even be from like our own solar system?
Yep.
Wow, dude, you really are getting into this shit.
Oh yeah.
So what's the
1000%.
What's the weirdest like rabbit hole you will go down? Like, what's the stuff that you're like, I don't even want to tell the Bigfoot Collectors Club about this because it's so weird. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no, I mean, you
Bryce
guys
won't believe me on this
yeah,
one.
Bryce, I want you to believe me.
No, I mean, I think you guys are pretty much all like, you know, in the same page, like open to it, and you know.
Yeah, we like to explore all mystery related things, and yeah, I've never been able to like pin it down to precisely what I believe, but I have explored that. You know, those kind of what you were talking about earlier, like having them be sort of like you know, those things in the Bible were very much, you know, sort of you know, alien or whatnot.
Like Ezekiel's wheel.
Yeah, Ezekiel's wheel was a
UFO.
UFO and all that stuff
It's a big
too.
one.
There's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Are you into ancient alien stuff?
Oh yeah, I love
Okay.
Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, I love that show too.
I love how they like set things up. Like, is it possible that blah 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 ancient astronaut theorists say yes?
I love that.
It's like they always set it up like it's like
Yep.
it's they set it up for legal reasons, you know. So like
Yeah,
be like, is it
totally.
possible? But then they always like make it like a resounding like
Anything's possible if you say it in that voice.
I know that guy's great. I love.
Oh
that
yeah, I
show.
love his voice. It soothes
he's
me.
the
It makes me
best.
go to sleep. It's
So
fun.
what's the narrative? All right, what do you think then? If we're being visited, what are they doing? Why are they here? What's the narrative in your mind? Like,
Yeah.
what narrative are you putting together with this stuff?
the same thing that, you know, the Bible kind of preaches. It's just all like you want to spread this like kind of peace and unity and you know, there-
Universal love.
but also too there's certain rules and structures to that, because I feel like a lot of times people just be like, oh, it's just love, and you know, use love, but it's like there's a reason why there were pages created and books created and these stories have been recounted, because like, there has to be some kind of structure. You have to be told no at a certain point, otherwise we would run amok and
What do
then
you
do
mean?
whatever we
Be
want.
told no at a certain point. What do you mean?
You know, like if we just like, you know, we're just, I don't know, like killing people left and right. It's like that's not how you progress,
Right.
you know, humanity.
Right.
It's like there has to be some type of, and you could do it in love. You know, it's like, I love you so much, I'm gonna kill you. I love you so
Yeah,
much.
I don't know.
I'm gonna drink this. You know, like you know, whatever.
Like Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, that's like the example of that. Is like it's just like orgiastic indulgence. You know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doesn't really actually drive things forward. I get what you're getting at. It's
Yeah.
like that can still be from a place of love, but like at the end of the day, if
It's-
you're just
it's-
drinking
it's-
wine and having orgies, like we're not going to get
Well,
anywhere.
it's just like I think what you're talking about is like we have to be able to like recognize like what's destructive, what's not destructive, in whatever our action
Yeah.
may take.
Right.
Interesting.
I like this take on Christianity. I think you should start a church.
Oh no.
Yeah. So when's your cult? When you starting your cult?
I like it.
Yeah.
I think this lens, though, honestly, is like this is the way religion makes the most sense to me.
Right.
When you look at it through a
Yeah.
paranormal
Yeah.
lens.
This is the way I'm fascinated by this stuff because I don't think this way. I tend not to think this way. I mean, I definitely can look at stuff and be like, did that thing in the Bible, could that be a UFO? Sure. You know what I mean? But my imagination tends to not combine like the UFO stuff with religion. But I think it's a totally like it's a totally like a cool way to think about it. It's just my imagination tends to go in a I don't know. I don't marry the two a lot. I don't know that much. I don't know why. I don't have a good reason. I mean, I grew up going to the church, and it was always something that the heaven, hell, angels, demons, all that stuff seemed to be on the opposite corner of the room, closer to like ghosts and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
spirituality. But as we've been like getting into on the show, and maybe we'll find out more when we get into Valiant Thor, because I'm excited. You know, excited to hear your take on what Bryce will share, Eric. Is that there does seem to be, as we've talked about, some sort of some spiritual aspect of UFO stuff and some psychic aspect of UFO stuff. And so I think that the further we get into this stuff, the less like nuts and bolts the UFO stuff feels to me. And it definitely feels like it could be, you know, phenomenon, if not of the stars also, and or interdimensional, you know. And then once you're getting into like other dimensions, it kind of comes back around to some stuff in the Bible and these ideas of different realms of existence, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You can bring it back
knows,
around. Who the fuck knows? That's
Yeah.
it. Ben Franklin fucking knows.
Yeah. Ben Franklin
Trying to get those Ben Franklin
Yeah,
fans
he
back.
knows.
He knew that shit.
We love Ben Franklin.
Like, well, maybe he's all right, I guess.
Maybe after all. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for High Strangeness and more fun, weird talk with Erick Lopez.
Yay. And we're back.
It's time for High Strangeness, everyone's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, well,
And it's-
the celebrities are the favorite part of the show.
Well, that's true. Everyone's second favorite part of the show.
The friendship is my
The
favorite.
friendship,
Oh,
the
that's
third
right.
best part of that show. It's a Bryce week.
Yeah.
Bryce, we've already tipped it, but what did you bring in for the clubhouse today?
Yeah, so Mike had recommended, he knew you were coming in, and he said,
I did. I knew you were coming,
He
Eric.
said you should check out. You should do your the Valiant Thor story, and I was familiar a little bit, and I said, oh yeah, sure, I love that old gem.
You just said this to me in passing. Remember last year? You're like, "Oh, you're doing a podcast about this stuff." I was like, "Yeah," and you're like, "Valiant Thor," and I was like, "Oh shit, this guy knows some deep cuts."
Yeah, well, Valiant Thor. Yeah, so my story of high strangeness is that of Valiant Thor, and so Valiant Thor, for those who don't know, that in 1967 a book was published titled "The Stranger at the Pentagon" by an evangelical preacher and UFO enthusiast,
Got it.
Dr. Frank E. Stranges. The book and its legendary tales of a handsome as hell, soft-skinned, Christ-loving alien.
Bryce, you should play Valiant Thor in a movie.
I would love
Yeah.
to play Valiant Thor.
That was also my way of saying you're handsome as hell.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're
From the
beautiful.
planet Venus have become the stuff of UFO legend. Now, the late, great Frank Stranges was the founder of the National Investigations Committee on UFOs and president of the International Evangelical Crusades and the International Theological Seminary of California. So he held a lot of titles.
Who?
Frank Stranges, the guy
Okay,
who
the guy who wrote the book.
Frank E. Stranges, Dr. Frank E. Stranges, who wrote
Dr. Strange?
Yes,
Dr. Strange wrote this
Dr.
book.
Stranges. Wouldn't that be awesome? So anyway, at a lecture for his book Saucerama, which I have not read.
This guy is like 60s
yeah.
a go-go.
No, yeah, he was into it. Frank Stranges was showing off some pictures of an alien ambassador named Valiant Thor and his second-in-command, Jill, that were given to him by a government photographer named Howard Menger. Now, it was at this lecture that he was greeted by a woman named Nancy Warren, who said she was a Pentagon insider and that she could get Frank a meeting with Val. More so, that Val would actually like to meet with Frank.
So wait, is his name Val Valiant Thor?
His name is Val Valiant Thor.
Wait, is Val Valiant?
Val Valiant.
First of all, Val Valiant is another name for one of our bands. That is fucking rad.
I know.
Second, it sounds like a game show host name, Val Valiant. So
Totally.
it's not like Val is short for Valiant. He's literally named Val, first name, middle name Valiant,
how I understand it, yeah. it's
last
a three-
name Thor.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
And he's a handsome evangelical alien from Venus?
Yeah, well, Frank was the evangelical, but
Got
yes, yeah, in a sort of way. We'll get there.
all
We'll
right.
get there.
I'm excited. I don't know the story as well as I thought.
Now, the story that Val presented to Frank was that on March 16th, 1957, in Alexandria, Virginia, he and his ship, the Victor I, landed with its crew of 3.
This is so written by a straight dude.
Jill, Dawn, and Tanya as earthly emissaries. I love those names.
Jill, Pam.
Jill, Dawn, and Tanya.
This is like the cast of The
that
Office.
and that with Val were the 4-man crew of the Victor I. So then they were greeted by 2 police officers who had their weapons drawn, and after some quick thought transference and telepathic jujitsu, the officers called their superior, who then called the Pentagon, and a meeting was arranged with Neil H. McElroy, the then Secretary of Defense.
Wait, so they land, they meet the cops, they pull some X-Men moves on them,
Totally.
and then
Yeah, Val does like some
the-
what's called mental transference, and basically, we need to speak to your leader.
so the cops are like, come back to the station, and the station puts them in touch with the Pentagon?
Yeah, the cops then put these guys in their car, and they call their superior, who then gets a hold of the Pentagon.
Well, why? But why wouldn't they? I guess because they saw him land in a UFO.
Listen,
I'm like, why aren't they arrested?
I know you're going to have a lot of questions
Okay,
here.
I'll shut up.
Now, once McElroy confirmed the veracity of Val's claims, he was ushered through an underground tunnel to the White House, where he met with President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon. It's believed that for a significant period after this meeting, Val and his team were given VIP access to the Pentagon, along with a furnished apartment, while they met with the senior politicians and Air Force commanders on numerous occasions and gave them advice on policy and dealings with other extraterrestrial beings. Now, according to Dr. Strange's, he was sought out by Val because of his being a devout follower of Jesus Christ.
Also, he had access to the time stone.
Don't confuse our listeners. No, so apparently, was not just the Son of God and Savior of mankind here on Earth, but of the Venusians, of Venus, and all life in the universe at large.
Jesus was.
Yes, and that the Bible exists on all life-supporting planets, be it in book form or as thought pattern. Now, Strange's himself said of Thor in his 1967 book, Stranger at the Pentagon, being a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, as well as a student of the Bible for many years, coupled with my experience as a special investigator, I felt as though my senses were functioning properly and that I knew exactly what I was about to do. I was on my guard for fakes and frauds. In walked a man about 6 feet tall, perhaps 185 pounds, brown wavy hair, brown eyes. His complexion appeared normal and slightly tanned. As I approached him, and
he is describing you, Bryce.
Oh, well, thank you. And he looked at me. It
So
was
odd.
as though he looked straight through me with a warm smile and extended his hand, and he greeted me by name. Now, after the book was published...
I'm Val. Valiant Thor. Yes, I know. Here's Dawn.
No, he
She'll
was
explain it to
saying
you.
he greeted Frank by name as if he knew his name, like, hello, Michael McMillian.
Oh.
That'd be scary.
Now, after the book was published in
I mean, I'm
1967,
kind of famous, so...
Frank continued...
Probably know.
Will you let Bryce tell the story?
Frank continued to report of his visits with Val, and that Val had saved his life on numerous occasions, thus allowing him to continue and preach the galactic word of Jesus. Now, I have a couple pictures here of Val and his crew. Here is Val, Jill, Dawn, and Tanya.
Tanya.
Let's picture you, Bryce.
Yeah,
I mean, they just look like regular old people.
right. And here is another one. Now, it was said that Val had some sort of galactic writing pad, which I think why this picture became popular. But this is a supposed picture of Valiant Thor.
Oh, the guy. Look, can you pass it over
It's
here,
supposed to be
please?
like an iPad, but back in the day.
Where? This one?
Yeah.
We'll put this up on the Instagram. That just looks like a notepad.
Well, yeah.
This is my mystical white notepad.
Yeah, that does just look like a sheet of paper.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally just holding a file. You can see, like, the clips on it.
Now, here we go.
All right.
Give me back my computer.
Okay, sorry. Here we go.
Now, okay, as if things weren't interesting enough from that point, here's where they start to get a little bit more interesting for me.
Are you blinded by that sunlight, by the way? Did you
No,
need to move
I don't
your
mind
face?
it. I sun gaze
Okay.
and to get energy.
Great.
And
My God, you are a sentient robot.
so, now here's where the story starts to get interesting for me a little bit. I was familiar with this story, but now did you know that this story intersects with another one of UFO's legendary characters, Phil Schneider? Yes, we talked about Phil Schneider before. Phil Schneider is the guy who was going around saying that there was an underground alien attack under...
Oh, shit. We
underground-
mentioned him last week.
We did, at the base at Dulce, New Mexico. Phil claims that his father, Oscar Schneider, once met and worked with Valiant Thor, and Phil would display a photograph on his lecture tours, supposedly showing Oscar Schneider sitting behind Val on board the USS Eldridge, the famed ship of the Philadelphia experiment.
Whoa.
That was purportedly involved in a bout of time travel after its initial invisibility test went awry. Now, the picture Phil always displayed showed a gray hair man sitting in front of his father. However, one can easily discern that the picture looks nothing like the man in the photos that Dr. Frank Strange has used to cart around in 1958. More so than that, the timelines don't add up, as Phil's picture, which does seem to show Oscar Schneider, is dated from 1943. But according to Stranger at the Pentagon, Val was only known to the U.S. government in 1957. Also, Phil claimed Thor had 6 fingers on each hand, an oversized heart, 1 giant lung,
An enlarged heart?
and copper oxide blood like an octopus. With an
Wait a minute.
Just took a leap.
Yeah.
with an IQ off the charts at about an estimated 1,200. He could also speak 100 languages fluently, including alien languages.
This guy has a dreamboat.
And could live
With
close
octopus
Yeah,
blood.
to
little Tinder
500
profile, right?
Yeah.
And he could live
Fuck.
close to 500 years in age. Now, but according to Doctor Strange, Thor was
He's
only
really
about-
putting the Mos Eisley Cantina spin on this guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is totally out of Star Wars now.
Totally. Now, as we heard Doctor Strange describe Thor, he was about 6 feet tall and a 185 with brown, wavy hair, brown eyes, leaving us with more questions than answers. Could there really be an intergalactic Jesus? Is there a cloaked ship near Lake Mead in Nevada with a crew named Val, Jill, Dawn, and Tanya?
Wait, they're still there?
Yes, apparently they are still there, according to legend. Or could it be that these men weren't telling the entire truth and able to make some careers out of the unbelievable, inexplicable, and unprovable?
Ding, 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 ding.
You
ding,
tell
ding,
us.
Ding, 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 ding.
What the hell was that?
I want to put in my bio, I have octopus blood. Like, I think that's such a cool...
185, octopus blood.
Got to cover up
Many takers.
octopus blood.
I'll tell you what, year 2 of this podcast, I'm all about skepticism on all these stories
And
now.
I will show you this. So this is the picture that Phil would bring around on
yeah,
his UFO lecture
that's
tours.
the photo I've seen of Valiant Thor. He looks
Right.
more. He doesn't even
Yes.
look like the same guy. He looks blonde here.
And this is actually Phil's father, Oscar Schneider, who was now this is taking place on the ready room of the USS Eldridge before they were about to drop the first nuclear bombs. So this was a high security
And
personnel.
So in what year is
Whoa.
that?
This is
1940.
this is 1943, I believe. So there is a discrepancy in pictures.
Yeah.
You have Dr. Frank Strange's, who got his pictures from a government photographer named Howard Menger, who I mean, this was sort of the veracity of his case was I have photographic proof of Valiant Thor, and
He
then,
just looks like every guy from the 60s.
Right.
yeah, in a sense. And but it was Thor's message that really kind of that Doctor Strange would love to talk about, and it was very much that we had talked about earlier. That being of he came with ideas of free energy, how to end starvation, and how to basically heal humankind and planet Earth. And he had 3 years to do so. He said, he says, my ship leaves on March the 16th, the same day, 1960. So they basically set him up in a beautifully furnished apartment at the Pentagon for 3 years. Although no one took his claims to offer these things seriously. They were like, he had the answers to the world, but apparently government insiders weren't too interested.
But I thought he was still here, so his ship did take off?
No, well, yeah. Oh, so he basically what he did was apparently he went back to his ship, the Victor I,
Okay.
which is cloaked near Lake Mead, Nevada. Still to this day, I believe, according to legend.
Oh, we all got to head out there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Eric's going to tell us what the hell this is all about.
Yes.
All right, sure.
Awesome.
And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're
And we're
back.
back.
And we're back.
We're back.
Back.
We're back. Erick Lopez, what the hell is this Valiant Thor business all
Yeah,
about?
how does that mesh with
Someone's got
with
a big grin on his
what you
face.
think and feel about Valiant Thor?
Well, I'm gonna be really honest. The first time I heard Valiant Thor, I was like, "This is." At first, I was intrigued. I was like, "This is interesting. I've never heard this story."
Yeah.
And then, as I do, I try to cross reference and everything.
Real quick, where were you when you do you remember when you
Yes.
came across this?
It was I was going down a dark like YouTube hole, and it was actually like the middle of the day. I was watching someone's he was out of town, so I had to like watch his cat. So I was like going over there, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, the cat doesn't eat right away. You have to kind of like just hang out with her and just kind of pet her a little bit, and then once she feels more comfortable, then she actually eats because she gets super scared. So I just had to hang out there until she ate.
Right.
So I went over
down
there,
the rabbit hole,
and then I went down the rabbit hole. And one of the videos that I came across was Valiant Thor, and I was super intrigued, and I wanted to know more. Mostly because I had already read about like, you know, hollow Earth and hollow planets, and like, you know, pretty much what he was saying was like that he came from Venus, but inside Venus.
right?
Right.
And yeah, that was my first thing. So I try to judge things by like, you know, from a scale of 0 to 100. This was like, at first I was like, oh, this is interesting, but then when I started doing more research, I was like, this is like a 10. Like, you know, because it sounded, and then I started like reading more stuff about it, and the more you read about it, the more you listen to the stories, you're like, this sounds very fabricated, like very written, like, you know, kind of like a lot of science fiction type novels and stuff. But then I did more digging.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Twist. What was the digging? What did you uncover?
There, yeah, like you said right there, there's more accounts of someone, you know, being within the government that came to them and said, "Hey, I am from a different planet," and was trying to get these points across. And through more digging, I found out that like they had a 4-phase program where they were like, okay, phase 1, you know, you try to contact, you know, Earth, and then it was United States, because the main thing was that whole like atomic bomb stuff. They're like, you guys are gonna kill yourselves. Right. You need to stop doing this. And they were not interested at all in what he was saying. They were more interested in his
tech.
Yeah, his technology.
Right.
And so they were just kind of like trying to get more of that information. And then the phase 2 was to try to like alert other world leaders. Same thing. Phase 3 was them just like trying to contact other religious leaders. And essentially what the religious leaders were saying was like, you row your boat, we'll row ours, you know, kind of. So it's like, all right. And then now they're in phase 4 where it's just like grassroots, like just little by little, you know, whoever wants to listen to what they're, you know, spreading, then they'll do that.
They being Valiant,
right? The Venetians
and the gang,
right?
Isn't Venus a gas planet?
I don't know if it's one of the gas planets.
Is it not gassy?
No,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's
gassy.
not.
It could be gassy.
I don't remember.
Let's check.
It's not. Okay, it's not that it's gassy. It's just like there's a lot of stuff in the atmosphere.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's poisonous.
So there is. All right. So
That's why he lives inside of it.
got it. It's just
Yeah, well,
every
apparently,
time I hear like Venusian, that always throws me because I'm like, don't we know? There's
apparently
no life
he did come
on
down
Venus?
with some tech of his own. Apparently, they were very interested in Val's uniform, which was kind of like one piece of solid metallic uniform that they couldn't cut or they couldn't burn, and so they were very interested in that.
Is Valiant Thor what they call a Nordic in ufology, which are like the tall blonde beings?
You know, some might get them. I think they're two totally separate.
Venusians and Nordics are different.
Two totally separate different things. Yeah, but I mean, you're right. There does seem to be this class of like beautiful aliens versus like you know,
and it's all a little
your scarier
master race
grays or
it's
reptilian.
A little
yeah.
disconcerting.
Yeah.
And
it's a little
I guess
white.
the other part of it was like because he was Doctor Strange was evangelical. It just kind of put up a red flag because you think, you know, immediately when you start thinking of these kind of stories that are being told, you start thinking of like Scientology, and you're like, oh, like what's being spun for profit, what's being spun to get your point across, you know?
Right.
Well, that's that's kind of what was pinging in the back of my head while listening to this story. Is that this to me sounds like a tale written by a dude who's like, we're in the 60s, we're in the atomic age, the kids today, they love their Beatles, there's not like church is starting to feel square, like it's for squares, and I need to come up with a way that will get the kids back into Jesus. So I'm creating this character of a spaceman who hangs out in the government, and it's kind of like you could kind of like smell him testing out a like religion or a cult with this kind of. It's like I felt like he had to come to grips with his own evangelical beliefs and go, all right, now that we're headed towards the moon, like I got to come up with something for myself that kind of like still keeps Jesus alive for me. So I'm gonna like upgrade like traditional Christianity with this idea of it being an intergalactic deal.
Well, sure, and there were some red flags in this story. For one, though, those pictures that I showed you of the original Val shown by Dr. Frank Strange's, those have been purported to be somebody named Jimmy J. Woolsey.
Oh, okay.
Some guy who was actually just a civilian out of Kansas, I believe.
Oh, wow. So someone who saw this was like, no, that's my uncle.
Yeah, someone saw these pictures and be like, that's not, I know who that is. That's this so-and-so person. And there's some veracity behind those claims as well to kind of dispute that those pictures were
but Eric, what you're saying is the truth at the center of all of this is there was a dude like that.
Yeah,
and you think so?
I went from completely being like, this sounds kind of bogus to like once, like if someone puts out a story to like, gain whatever, like money or notoriety or to spread their message, that's one thing. But once other things start adding up beyond what the story you told, in things that started adding up for me was whenever, diving deeper into like reading stories of the Bible, how people lived like hundreds and hundreds of years. And even how like there's something in Genesis where it talks about how like, the sons of God came and saw that some earth women were very beautiful. So they took them as like their own, and like some hybrids happened.
That's the Anunnaki, right?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the Nephilim.
Sons of God, the sons of Adam,
angels.
daughters of Adam or whatever.
That's from the book of Enoch. Yeah, the fallen angels.
There's stuff in Genesis too, like that's all about that. But if you were an evangelical minister or just an evangelical who like knew that stuff, can't you just use that as source material for your new creation, Valiant Thor? You know what I mean? Like,
and just hope that people would do their own digging,
or do what you're doing, which is like, well, shit, it's all here in the Bible, so this might be real.
Well, separate accounts of what is it, Venetians?
I get, yeah.
Is that they are like several hundred years old, and then not even them, but other creatures. Whenever they like visit, like people that have contacted I guess humans, they're like, yeah, this person said he was like 800 years old or 1200 years old. It's like when you start adding all those things up, then you're like, well, maybe there was someone here that was way more wise than any of us, and we just kind of like, well, what kind of cool tech stuff do you got?
What can you give our army to shoot another army with?
There is that famous account of Dwight Eisenhower meeting with an alien presence at, I believe, Holloman Air Force Base.
That's the whole basis of Close Encounters.
Yeah, that there's a lot of information behind, and we haven't done that story yet as well too. But there's some great evidence and lore behind that whole situation as well. But it's completely an entirely different thing from Dr. Frank Strange's account of Stranger at the Pentagon.
Right.
So it's like, it's just an interesting fact I'm pointing out that, Dwight D. Eisenhower seems to be the president who got to meet with got the whole alien meeting thing going underway here.
I mean, that if you're to believe all that stuff, which is fun to believe.
Yeah.
Well, going deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
There's I heard the accounts that Val was still around and he was still working with the government and everything, and then people started asking about Trump and if he was working with Trump. And there was a guy that was giving a speech, and he was like, doing getting questions and stuff, and he said that apparently they won't work with Trump or Putin because they're like they know for a fact they would misuse it.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, it's so crazy because someone else asked that question. It's not like he like purposely like said it there.
Wait, who's saying this?
So this is MUFON, the Mutual UFO
MUFON.
MUFON, yeah. So there was a speaker that was talking about this, and it was like halfway through the lecture, and he brings this up. and then I connected something else separately. So, a while back, he brought up Space Force, and everyone got super excited. Space Force, right? Even further back, I don't know if you guys watched the documentary, was it Disclosure? The Disclosure Project?
I've seen that, yeah.
Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
So Stephen Greer is like, he's definitely someone that like gets his money and stuff like that. But one of the interesting things from it that I took was that they were building a Space Force, and that was before Trump announced it.
Right.
And then whenever he announced it, I was like, oh, shoot, they, out of that entire documentary, that at least they got that part right. And then I started thinking about it once I started realizing, oh, like Venetians or whatever, they're not giving this information. So then I started being like, okay, Trump is super transparent. So whenever he gets scared, what does he do? He does like force, he uses like tactics, build a wall, all this stuff. So why is it that he brought up Space Force when all of his other, his people were like, hey, don't bring this up? Like other people that, were his, that were with him in the government were like, stop talking about Space Force. And they even try to like, shut it down a little bit for now,
Right.
And then I'm like, I think it's because he found out about the aliens. He wanted to talk to them. He wanted to get more like, business type stuff and like get stuff to advance stuff. And whenever they're like, no, we're not going to talk to you, and they talk to all the other leaders, he got upset and he's like, we're going to build a Space Force to like be like, look, we're actually going to make this happen, because he just put it out there because he's so transparent and like how
vibes with his credo. Sure.
Yeah.
So
I like this narrative.
Bryce, I think we met your match.
I know. There is some interesting, Laura Eisenhower, the great granddaughter of Dwight D. Eisenhower, also talks about Valiant Thor as well.
Yeah,
and she has a lot to say on the subject too. So she
is really into the UFO.
She
stuff.
is very much into the UFO.
I think she's kind of. I'm not sure. I was researching her.
She's
much
got
to
her
the
own
chagrin,
thing going on.
Much to the chagrin of some of her family members. I think she's kind of out there doing her own thing.
Yeah, no, she's definitely kind of been like on the outskirts of the Eisenhower legacy with her own kind of ufology and stuff like that. But she's all on board with the Valiant Thor meetings that took place at the Pentagon and stuff like that. So, which brings another interesting element to the story of Valiant Thor and the Victor One. I always thought it was like such a strange, like maybe they were just going with the times of the people that and the era that were. But this is Jill, Don, and Tanya. And it's like,
Val Valiant.
Val Valiant. But very interesting
Space
stuff.
Jesus.
Leaves a lot of questions. Yeah, well, sure. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Cool.
And that's the story. Yeah, but that's the story.
Wow. All right, man. I don't know what to I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I left you stumped, huh?
I'm a little stumped. Yeah.
I never know what to believe anymore.
I don't either. I'm just like going back to believing everything, I guess, after being a skeptic for 2 minutes. All right. Well, Eric, before we leave, where can people, we didn't talk about you being an entrepreneur. Do you want to plug anything right now?
Yeah, sure. Me and a couple buddies are creating an app called Busy, and it's just to promote, community. Really, cool. I noticed that there's, especially being in Los Angeles, it's like very tough to like schedule things with people, and I started looking at all the different social apps that are out there. Instagram makes photography social, and like Twitter makes like texting social in a way, and then like Spotify makes music social. So it's like what else is left to make social? And it's like calendars, and it's not anything new, but it's like I realized that all the other tech guys in Silicon Valley, they kind of like rely a lot on just hey, let's make a social calendar, and then people are just going to love it to make parties. And it's like, no, that's not how you create community. You actually have to go out and create events and like, hey, we're going to do a kickball thing. Hey, we're going to do like a get together over here. Hey, we're going to do like a book club. It's like, and that's what our founding team is kind of focusing on, is just gearing up to actually create events so people aren't just like, oh, it's another app. It's like actual community.
That's cool.
And it's called Busy.
And the foundation is all like a really fun calendar, because I feel calendars kind of like outdated. They're very useful, but they're very like,
I mean, they're still designed to look like something you can hang on your wall.
Right.
It's true. Well, that's cool. And then you're on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend right now, which is airing. And anything else you want to plug? Twitter, Instagram?
Oh yeah, sure. Instagram, Mr. Erick Lopez, ERICK Lopez.
Great. And you were recently married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude.
That's
Congratulations.
awesome. Riley It's Thanksgiving and you're in Albuquerque, so where can people see the Spindrift this weekend? Should they want to?
Oh, we're done.
Oh, you're done.
Yeah, it's just an 8-show run.
Oh,
but,
cool. All right.
It was great.
Fun while it lasted. Great.
What's
Bryce?
an HO run?
Oh, like eight shows.
8.
Oh, I
show
thought
run.
she said HO.
Oh, just an 8-show run, man. Just talking some music slang.
I was like, I want to know your music.
Hit down
Bryce, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, just follow us on all our social media accounts. Bigfoot Collectors Club is everywhere where you can find us. And if you really like this show, please feel free to support us on Patreon. We do this out of the love and time of our hearts, and so it's always nice to get a little love back on our Patreon account. So we really appreciate you guys doing that.
Yeah, and we have so for $5 a month, you can unlock multiple bonus reward episodes every month. So you are getting almost twice as much show when you contribute to the Patreon. So that's like it's for like a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Coffee.
I wanted to say thanks to everybody listening, and also a quick plug for my comic book adventure van.
Yes.
Issue 4 is coming out next week, Wednesday the 28th. You can go to your local comic book shop right now and say, I want to order Adventure Van. It's not too late, so we're in the previews catalog. We are published by Golden Apple Books. Issues 1 through 3 are already out. 4 will be out next week, and then issue 5, which wraps up the first story arc, is coming out in December. So it's a really fun book. I'm really proud of it. It's great art by Ryan Cody. Sci-fi fantasy comedy adventure van. Please go pick up a copy. I will totally appreciate it. And that's it. That's it for thank you, Eric, for coming and being on the show.
Thanks, Eric.
We're slowly checking off all the cast of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Awesome.
We just have a few more people left. So we'll make sure that we do that before the show disappears forever in the spring, which is sad, but it's, all good things must come to an end. Except for this show. We'll be doing this every week for the rest of our lives until we have met
We need you to get on a new show so we can get more guests.
Yeah, no shit. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, and happy Thanksgiving.
See ya. Happy Thanksgiving.
God.
That was half committed turkey.
So dead.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.